What's cracking, ladies and gentlemen? 49 coming out your another community shoutcast for the OUSA Dota League Season 2. We're loading into the first Group 1 playoff. It's a best of 3 series up against eSnug and SINGTO. So SINGTO, which formerly used to go by TYK, I think they might have switched up their roster a little bit, since I recognize 4 out of 5 players. So led by their captain Pandy, up against the boys from eSnug who have formerly struggled. They're currently playing without their captain and drafter Brightside New Zealand, so he's been replaced by a stand-in for tonight, since I believe he's got work, so he's unable to play. So captain Tai Chow, who I believe is going to be the stand-in for their team. So first ban Batrider coming out from SINGTO. Batrider is a hero that has fallen off a lot in terms of effectiveness, because the reason why you picked up Batrider before is he was able to find so much farm over on the off lanes. It's very difficult to contest against him 1v1. If he gets more than 4 sticky napalm stacks, he could go for a solo kill with the Firefly. And even if it's 1v3, he could actually go for a lot of kill attempts, or he could turn around ganks if they aren't able to kill him fast enough. They could burn down in this Firefly, as well as the fact that if you did manage to shut him down, you could always find recovery farm in the jungle through Sticky Napalm and the Firefly combination on stacked neutral creeps. However, with the nerf, so Sticky Napalm only adds half bonus damage to non-hero units. It's much more difficult for Batrider to get a very early Blink Dagger, since you want to get Blink Dagger in the 13-14 minute mark, since then you can start running around creating space for your team by going for these solo pickoffs. Without the early Blink Dagger, Batrider falls off completely in terms of effectiveness and in terms of ganking power. The teams have learned to shut down the Batrider in the early stages to be able to prevent it from getting that snowball rolling. And so it's Tinker as well, another ban coming out, especially considering the fact that eSnug are over on the Radiant side. But unfortunately for eSnug, their Tinker player, Brightside New Zealand, isn't actually playing with them tonight, so respect ban, but probably could have been saved in this particular case. So SINGTO have first pick. Will be interesting to see what hero they decide to pick up. And over for eSnug, they've banned out Pandy's favorite heroes, the Brewmaster as well as the Lone Druid. So he's a hero that's renowned for. So he's a player that's renowned for being a player that was micro-intensive heroes. And so it'll be interesting to see what SINGTO decide to pick up. Tidehunter and Faceless Void are still in the pill. Tidehunter's usually a pretty standard first pickup, especially for a team like SINGTO, since TYK over in the ODL1, they relied a lot on wombo combo ultimates. One of the things that made them so powerful is the fact that they always went for these incredibly well synergized combinations. So one of the combos they'd like to run was the Nagasar in that 4 position role to help set up the, and then you'd follow up with the Death Prophet Exorcism, the Grave Silence immediately as the sleep wears off, and then the Dirge Tombstone on top of that to be able to create 2-3 zombies while they're asleep. So instead go with Skywrath Mage as the first pick. Skywrath Mage, currently the most powerful support hero in the game, tying that places with the Shadow Shaman. The Skywrath Mage doesn't need as much investment, because he's a lot faster than the Shadow Shaman. There's a 40 movement point difference. Skywrath Mage is the fastest support hero in the game at 325 movement speed. With the Arcane Bolt, which scales very well into the later stages of the game, he deals a fair amount of damage, and the Ancient Seal is it's actually completely broken right now in its current iteration. 30% magic damage amplification at level 1 with a 3-second silence, scaling up to 6 seconds. And so if you could combo Skywrath Mage with another hero, or even on his own, with damage and with that followed by the Mystic Flare is enough to kill any hero if he catches them out. So the reason why Skywrath Mage is so powerful is he gives you a good balance of offense and defense with the utility he provides from the Concussive Shot, the Snare, as well as the Silence coming out from the Ancient Seal. And if he catches any other support hero on his own, he can blow them up immediately with the Mystic Flare. And so we've got a Doombringer first pick coming out from eSnug. Doombringer, a hero that hasn't actually been played very effectively in the ODL2. He's an incredibly powerful... Oh, hang on a second, I've actually completely botched it. So Doombringer is an incredibly powerful offlane here in the sense that he could recover very nicely, especially with the amount of recovery farm he could find with the Devourer, and with the Scorched Earth, he's got the movement speed and the sustainability to stay in lane and go for solo kills once he's got that Doom. But the issue that I've noticed with a lot of players in the ODL2 is they're dooming the wrong target, first of all, and secondly, they're losing the offlane. They're dying when they shouldn't be. The whole point of picking Doom in the offlane is he's so difficult to kill. If you start with Boots first and with the Scorched Earth, it's very hard to kill the Doombringer because he moves so quickly and he's regenerating such a massive amount of life. But if you're dying in the laning phase as the Doom, sometimes it can't be helped. They are able to execute a well-coordinated gank with the sports coming in from the side and catching you completely unaware. It can't be helped, but you have to play it a lot more safely and a lot more defensively. It doesn't really matter if you get any CS at all, since you can find your recovery farm through so long as you're able to devour creep every now and then, you can find your gold then. But the most important factor is dooming the wrong target. You always want to make sure that you're dooming the right target. So in this particular lineup, with the Tidehunter being picked up as well as the Skywrath Mage, you could doom either the Skywrath... You want to doom the Skywrath Mage if the Tidehunter's blown its Ravage, otherwise you doom the Tidehunter. Because Doom is one of those abilities that will persist through Kraken Shell. You can't Kraken Shell it off. And any other ability that persists through Kraken Shell completely shuts down Tidehunter, since he's entirely dependent on the Kraken Shell being ensure he gets that Ravage off. And so, if you could Doom Titanter before he gets his Ravage off, you could kill him immediately, and without the Ravage, SINGTO's teamfight falls apart. They've banned out the Nature's Prophet, so they're banning out split push heroes as well, so the Tank and the Nature's Prophet provide a lot of split pushing presence, since that's the antithesis of what SINGTO and TYK like to do. They like to fight as 5, they like to go for these huge engagements where they rely on the superior teamfight spells and the superior execution to win them the match, so they don't want to deal with Rat Dodo or Split Push Dodo, where you're constantly having to split up in order to react to the aggression of the enemy team. So Faceless Void being banned out as well. Very surprising they chose to ban out the Faceless Void, considering the fact that Faceless Void is almost always played as a 3 position hero. You can play him as a 1 position, but you're putting too many eggs into one basket then. You want to combo the Faceless Void with another physical DPS dealer, preferably a ranged one, and the only other place you could put another hyper farm priority hero is in the mid lane. And if you've got two greedy if you've got a greedy mid hero and a 1 position hero that relies on them getting farm as well, it doesn't really work out too well, so it's why teams usually run the 3 position role. And so Faceless Void being banned out is actually a bit of a questionable ban in this particular case, since the Tidehunter is going to be the guaranteed offlaner. You also can have Tidehunter be a mid hero or be a 4 position hero, but those are roles that don't really fit him as well as the offlane does. And so Luna being banned out, Luna, very powerful ban, especially in this case, since she's a very aggressive tri-lane hero that functions well with other aggressive support. So the Skywrath Mage, the concussive shot, sets up the Luna to deal those right clicks. And since Skywrath Mage and Luna are so very fast, the Lucent Beam actually provides a fair amount of damage amps. So you've got Skywrath Mage at 600 range, and Luna with the movement speed and the concussive shot being able to do a lot of work. Viper is the mid pickup for eSnug. You can run Viper as a tri-lane farmer, but he needs too much farm to really be effective in that 1 position role, so you want to have a 1 item advantage, and you want to end the game fairly quickly. So you most likely want to run that Viper mid. And Viper up against the Death Prophet, it's actually a fairly even lane. Viper's the best 1v1 hero in the game, hands down. He beats the Outward Destroyer. He goes 50-50 with the Razor, depending on player execution. But Viper against the Death Prophet actually should be able to win the lane, assuming he goes for the max corrosive skin build. Or if he plays hyper aggressive from level 1, level 2, but through a bottle crowing, Death Prophet can find a recovery farm that way. Death Prophet, since she relies on the Crypt Swarm to be able to control the lane, since her projectile speed is fairly slow and she's got a fairly big wind-up point, the Viper, with his superior animation and with the superior damage coming in from the Nether Toxin, should be able to out-CS her, and every time she throws at the Crypt Swarm, if it clips the Viper, she's also eating the corrosive dot snare, as well as the damage. Well, the damage is fairly negligible. The fact that she's constantly being snared means the Viper gets another free hidden. And so Wraith King being picked up, because they haven't picked up another tri-lane farmer or another support hero yet, it could be a support position Wraith King, or it could be a 1 position. With the Viper being picked up, you most likely want the Wraith King to be the 4 position role, Skywrath being the 5, just because if he's the 1 position role, Viper can just ult him and then Wraith King can't do anything, because the snare will persist through BKB, so even if he gets a BKB, it won't help him, and if you could kite the Wraith King, he can't really do anything. And so we've got a Clinkz being picked up by eSnug, so Clinkz is going to be the safe lane farmer, with the Shadow Shaman being there to back him up, and all they need now is the last support hero, and the Doombringer is going to be the off lane. They've banned out the Lycanthrope, because the Lycanthrope punishes any mistake that you make, since he could split push and he could Deathball. And so if you ever lose a fight against a Lycanthrope, you're going to be, in the early stage of the game, you're losing a tower, in the late stage of the game, you're losing a Rax, so you can't make any mistakes at all. And the Lycanthrope can always choose to split push on the side, utilizing his shapeshift to be able to act as sort of like a ghetto Nature's Prophet. He can run away when the enemy team TPs back in. And so he can constantly place pressure across the map in that way, as well as the fact that the Howl ensures that the mid lane and the off lane has an easy time with the added base damage. Mirana being banned out, because Mirana synergizes very well, although in this particular lineup it'd be a core position Mirana with Skywrath Mage and the Wraith King, but you've got a huge amount of killing power coming out from that tri-lane, so the Wraith King starts with the Wraith Fire Blast, or Skywrath Mage from a distance starts with the Concussive Shot, into the Wraith Fire, into the Arrow, and then that's enough magic damage, especially with the Ancient Seal Damage Jam, and with an Arcane Bolt or 2 to be able to kill off any hero. Also gives you a fairly powerful, or if you decide to run the Wraith King in that 1 position role, the Skywrath Mage and the Mirana, probably not the best support duo, because you don't have a way to reliably set it up, so that's why you're going to be seeing a core position Mirana if it was picked up. Sand King being banned out as well. So Sand King and Shadow Shaman, very greedy support duo that you see fairly often, despite the fact that it's usually too greedy to really work, because the Shadow Shaman and the SK both need a fair amount of golden experience to be effective. Sand King wants his level 6, level 7 ASAP, so you can get that maxed out Barrow Strike and have that Epicenter contribute to these fights. And Shadow Shaman, He wants to have level 7, so he has that level 4 Ether Shock, because that does a huge amount of damage. And Ether Shock, it scales well, but the early stages, it's not that effective, because level 1 Ether Shock only hits one target. So instead going for Lich, I like this a lot, because Lich can initiate, so he's a lot faster than the Shadow Shaman. He's got a high range over in the Frost Nova. So he Frost Nova, Shadow Shaman gets him for the Shackle, and then he can follow up with the Ether Shock to go for a kill. Lich also controls the creep Equilibrium through the sacrifice ability, and the Frost Armor, now that it works on towers as well, it makes it a bit more difficult for SINGTO to be able to push down these towers. But with the Death Prophet, it's going to be difficult, so having the extra armor helps, but it's not going to be enough to be able to stop it on its own. Since Lich can't stop pushes on his, by himself, since he has no AoE, it's the biggest drawback of Lich. But Shadow Shaman can make up for it in spades with the Ether Shock, and the Clinkz are the lowest solo killing power. And so eSnug, they have a lineup that has a fair amount of, it's got a little bit of split push, since the Doombringer, the Shadow Shaman, and the Clinkz can push down waves and start pressuring away at the tower if they're ever left alone. So SINGTO, even they've got this very powerful 5v5 Deathball kind of lineup where they group up as 5. If they've got their ultimates up, they should be able to win the fight, especially if they're able to get a great Blink Ravage coming up from the Tidehunter. Death Prophet with the Exorcism, every time Exorcism's up, you run the hell the other way, unless you could kill the Death Prophet in a relatively quick time without investing too many resources. So if the Death Prophet finds itself out of position, Clinkz can burst her down with the Orchid, or if Doom can actually doom the Death Prophet before she gets an Exorcism off, you could turn these fights. But Omniknight's been picked up, and so we could actually be seeing, so we're going to be seeing a support position, no, it's going to be it could be either a farming Omniknight or a farming Wraith King. I would prefer the farming Wraith King, since Omniknight doesn't really work too well as a 4, or we could be seeing a 4 position Tidehunter with the Omniknight off lane. Either way, very questionable draft coming out from SINGTO. It'll be interesting to see how they execute this. It makes a lot of sense with the Omniknight being able to provide you that added woof with the Repel as well as the Guardian Angel. If you're able to get a Guardian Angel off, you've already won a fight. But the issue is actually being able to get it off at the right time. Since Omniknight has an atrocious cast point, I think it's 0.56. And we've got so many ways to be able to interrupt him and to be able to prevent him from casting spells. So for instance, if the Shadow Shaman sees Valerie waving his hammer up to be able to cast the Purification or the heal, he can Shackle him, since Shackle's got an instant cast point, and that'll be to prevent him from using it in the spells. If you Doom the Omniknight, he can't do anything, but that adds another target for Doom to be able to be forced to Doom. And so we're going to be seeing a 1 position Wraith King, despite the fact there's a Viper and a Clinkz on the field, so 2 heroes that can kite them very effectively. So going to be played by Gomu Gomu. Looks like we're going to be seeing Limda Driver. Not really too sure how to pronounce that properly. I'm going to assume it's Limda Driver. Going to be over in that Skywrath Mage, choosing the skill the Arcane Bolt at 1 with the Ephemerian. That's the Immortal item for him. And we're going to be seeing Valerie heading over to the top lane. So he's going to be playing that Omniknight in that 4 position role. Sexy going to be the off lane Tidehunter. And we're going to be seeing Pandy over on the Death Prophet. Ward, Sanctuary Ward being placed, immediately being pinged up by Caesar Cheese over for eSnug. So he's going to be that 5 position Lich. Spooky Scary Skeleton, the offlane player, going to be over on that Doombringer. Starting with Boots first, so he's going to give himself as much survivability as possible. He doesn't have a safety ward, however. Tiggle Biddy's going to be the mid lane player. Viper with Nether Toxin at 1, so he really wants to ensure that he could get every CS possible to be the win the lane passively. Captain Taichu, the stand-in, or perhaps the new player for the team, going to be over on the Clinkz, so he's going to be that 1 position role. And Diablo's going to be on the Shadow Shaman. He's got Shackle up at 1, so SINGTO, Sexy's able to pick up that Invis rune, so that means he's going to be able to hit level 2 for free, or at least get the vast majority of the experience. And Pandy actually screws up his creep block with the Spirit creep block from Tiggle Biddies, ensuring that he's able to get that CS. I'm just going to quickly close the stream on my end, just because it does seem to be interfering with the stream quality as regards to the lag. We've actually got a dual lane with the Doombringer as well as the Lich. Lich gives you that added flexibility of being able to run in dual lanes, because with the sacrifice he can help you control the lane. Arcane Bolt flies out over Spooky Scary Skeleton, but he doesn't really give too much of a damn. He's gotten his creep devoured, so he can passively sit back in lane. And because they've got a fairly soft tri-lane, because the Omniknight doesn't give you any immediate kill power unless you're able to get the Purification off, but that relies on too much setup. Since he can't help set up a gank on his own, he needs another hero to set it up for him. And until they hit level 2, until they have that concussive shot, they shouldn't be able to go for any kill attempts. And so this dual lane actually might be able to work out, especially the creep equilibrium pushing this far forward. That's the issue with the Omniknight, is he needs a lot of experience and a lot of farm, and the only way to find that is in the solo lane. Since if you run him as a support hero, he's not going to be able to get the levels in the farm to be really effective. But this dual lane might actually work out fairly well, since with the sacrifice, you're controlling the Radiant offlane. The Radiant offlane has a very easy time to begin with. And so when you have the added benefit of the sacrifice, which is the 90 EXP and giving you another source of EXP, the lane actually could work out fairly well. And the mid lane, looks like Tiggle Biddy's out CSing the Death Prophet. This is anything too surprising. Since he's got the Nether Toxin, he's actually choosing to go for 2 points in the Nether Toxin. So you usually only need 1 point, 2 points, in a matter of player preference or against a particular lineup. So for instance, Viper against the Huskar, you want 2 points in Nether Toxin. Since Huskar thrives on being low HP, and surprise surprise, Nether Toxin does more damage when you're at low HP. Choosing to prioritize denies over last hits, wasn't able to get that one. If he moved himself a bit far forward before he threw out that right click, he would have gotten it. He's playing very passively. He should be playing a lot more actively as a Viper. You always want to be playing around there, especially once you get a point up in the Corrosive Skin. So he'll be most likely picking that at 4. Since you could get free hits in with the Poison Orb. Since it's an orb attack, it won't proc creep aggro. So it ensures that you can always get right clicks in, and you have to zone them out actively through your right clicks and then try to win the lane passively as well. You can't just win the lane passively on a Viper unless you're against a matchup where the enemy hero has superior base damage than you and outranges you. So for instance, against the Tinker, and when he has his laser up, you want to play passively since he can always laser blind you. But against the Death Prophet, who's going to be throwing out the Crypt Swarm otherwise, you want to be up in her face to be the preventer from being able to get CS for free. You want to make sure that she has to take some kind of trade every time you do this. But while I say this, Goma eats a Frost Blast. That's going to be first blood. Spooky Scary Skeleton stabs him. Doesn't have that reincarnate since he's level 2. And this dual lane doing a lot of work. Limda has to be fairly careful. He just used a concussive shot. If he eats another Frost Blast, that could be a kill. But Lich unfortunately doesn't have enough mana. Frost Blast, the only way to balance Lich is to give Frost Blast a prohibitively high mana cost, just because he's got the sacrifice. So that means that Lich is always forced to have a few points up in the sacrifice. Otherwise, he'll chew through all his mana. Viper now has boots up, whereas Death Prophet opted to go for the bottle. Viper's one of those mid heroes where you don't really have to go for a bottle. You can choose to do so if you really want to, but you just want to stay mid. If the enemy hero goes for rune, you just get the wave of experience instead. And you can usually keep and you usually want your supports to rotate and pick up the rune. So Golbiddy's missing uphill. He should be playing a lot more aggressive. He actually chose to go for 3 points in the poison attacks and no points in the corrosive skin, the ability that helps him survive and win against the Death Prophet. This is a very old school Viper build where you used to have to go 3 points in the poison attack because the cooldown scaled. It used to be 3 seconds at level 1, 2 at level 2, and then 0 at level 3. And so you had to go for 3 points over in the poison attack. But ever since that's been reworked, you very rarely see 3 points in the poison attack this early on. At most you see 2, because the 20% snare gives you makes up for your slow movement speed. Whereas a 10% snare just gives you free hits. But when I say that, CS Cheese caught out by the tri-lane combination, so it looks like the concussive shot was used to set that up, followed by the Ray Fire Blast and the purification on top of that. So it's a lot of burst damage if you do get caught out. But if the Skywrath Mage is away pulling the creep wave, and you know it's just those two, the Omniknight can't really give you any killing power on his own. You still can do the Ray Fire Blast and the purification, but that won't be enough damage to be able to kill off the Doombringer. So as long as Lich is playing far back so he doesn't get caught by the Ray Fire Blast, you should be good to go. And Clinkz in the bottom lane, 29 for 5. Captain Taichu, that means he's gotten almost every CS, so I believe he's missed one. Or he's missed 1 to 3, depending. Yeah, no, he's missed about 3 since he's got 29. But all in all, not too bad CS coming up from him. It's about 6 CS a minute, and then some on top of that. So he's farming up a storm. Probably going to be going towards that Orc and Malevolence as soon as possible. Clinkz is one of those heroes that's entirely dependent on snowballing and on momentum. So similar to his Slark, you want to get your Orchid up as quickly as possible. If you just rush the Orchid with no boots, which you can do in the Clinkz since you get some move speed from the Skeleton Walk, you can usually have it up by the 12-13 minute mark if you really rush it. Valerie eats a Frost Blast to the face, then decides to turn around and pop the Repel, which doesn't give him anything. But once he gets to point up in the Degen Aura, he becomes very dangerous, especially since Degen Aura now plays a sticky for 2 seconds. But we've got a rotation coming in from Sexy over to the mid lane. Pandy pops the Haste Rune, he uses the Exorcism as well. He can do a lot of chip damage over to that mid lane. And Sexy, he's completely been zoned out. He hasn't been stacking the Ancients, which is usually the way you refine your recovery farm on the Tidehunter. But he does have his energy booster up, so he's almost got his Arcane Boots. And so once he hits level 6, he can contribute to these team fights. Pandy should be able to take the Tail 1 tower off the back of his Exorcism. Fortification's been blown. He's forcing a rotation from the Lich as well. Viper has Viper Strike, and it looks like he's going to be on mech duty, so building towards that as quickly as possible. However, without the defensive capability of the Corrosive Skin, he's actually fairly squishy. Clinkz looks like he's going for the Hand of Midas. So going for the EE Salmon build, I guess because he would have had it at the 6 minute mark if he hadn't rotated mid. So he's actually wasted a lot of time in doing so. Death Prophet picks up a double damage rune. Taichu's probably going to spot it out. Never mind, it's a bit too late for it, but the Radiant rune was there to spot that out. When you're playing on the Radiant side, you don't want to place the ward there, you want to place it there or there. That's the defensive Radiant ward because it spots in all potential gang paths, so if they're going through there or through there, you can spot it out. This is a very greedy pub ward that you place if you're on the dire off lane, because it gives you so much. So you can see all visions from there, so you can see gank attempts coming from there as well as from there. But because it's so greedy, it's usually counter warded fairly easily. So as the dire off lane, you want to place your safety ward there, there, there. That's also another common spot, but because it's so easily counter warded, you want to make sure that you place it in a fairly unconventional spot. So actually catches out Taichu with the Anchor Smash, so the debuff ensures that Clinkz won't be able to do too much damage to him. But that being said, it doesn't prevent the Searing Arrow damage that's added on top. And so he still cops a fair amount of damage. But he doesn't die at any rate. Spooky Scary Skeleton, he actually could be taking a fall. Purification lands on him, he's caught with the Ancient Seal, got Arcane Bolt flying out. And unfortunately, Wraith wasn't there in time. But Caesar Cheese, he's going to be the Sacrificial Lamb. As Valerie at that point up in the Degen Aura is able to lock him in place. And so we've got a 7.5 minute Midas, so a minute later than you'd like it to be. And Viper, because he chose to go for 3 points in the poison attack, and hasn't been playing that far forward as well, Pandy's been having a fairly easy lane where he shouldn't have. He's actually beating the Viper in terms of CS. Hex as well, Shackle being blown. Viper Strike lands, but Pandy should be able to make it out in time. So you've wasted the Viper Strike as well as all of Diablo's mana. So he's going to be forced to use the Clarity if he wants to use any other abilities. Otherwise, he's going to be drawn all the way back to base. And even then, just with the Clarity, he has enough for a Shackle. Since the Hex chews through a huge amount of your mana, it costs the exact same amount for a fraction of the stun time. It doesn't give you, it's 1.75 at level 1 compared to 2.5 for the Shackle. So the fact that he blew both, still wasn't able to get a kill, means that's a lot of wasted time over in the supports. And supports, you want to be efficient with your mana usage, especially since you don't want to go back to the base, and you want to constantly be able to apply pressure. Without mana, you can't do anything. And so Valerie, now being given the mid lane to be able to find as much farm as possible, chose to go for a Ring of Regen over the boots, so probably going to be going towards Tranquil Boots. I guess he could be on mech duty, although you probably want the Tidehunter or the Death Prophet to be able to go for it as well, but I guess Tidehunter, if he wants to get his blink as soon as possible. Pandy reveals his Invis Rune, clips Tiggle Biddies. Tiggle Biddies, if he had the Viper Strike, could have turned around for a kill attempt there. Unfortunately, he used it earlier, so wasn't able to do so. Pandy controlling the creep wave using that creep swarm, constantly keeping it pushed out. That's the reason why you want max corrosive skin against the Death Prophet, so she can't do that for free. Every time she does that, she's eating the snare, which means you get a few more right clicks in. She's eating the dot damage, which does stack up, especially if you chose to rush the bottle, which you most likely will be doing. Viper actually denies the tower, so Tiggle Biddies doing pretty well, but the fact that the Viper's lost mid lane to the Death Prophet, this is a matchup that he should have handedly won and actually destroyed. Reincarnate being forced down the top lane. Spooky Scary Skeleton, it looks like he's got a Midas as well. He could be taking full Ravage being blown, catches out too. Caesar Cheese taking a lot of damage, but he shouldn't make his way out of there. Turns around for the sacrifice, and he should have enough movement speed. Never mind, calling out the Wraith Fire Blast as well. Gush is available. Gush being used, and Caesar Cheese is going to be feeding another kill. So Sexy, his first rotation with the Ravage, able to get 2 kills, and Pandy with the Exorcism, they should be able to take the tail one over in the top lane. And a double Midas coming up from eSnug. While it does secure you the late game, having a Midas up on the offlane Doombringer, too much greed for you to handle, especially against the early in-your-face lineup of SINGTO. They should have read, the Doombringer should have read the draft more. They should have realized that the enemy team, once they get their ultimates up, they're going to group up and fight, take all your towers. And in that case, your Midas aren't going to do a goddamn thing. The attack speed is nice on the Doombringer later on, once you've got 2 more items up and you've eaten the Alpha Wolf. But this early on in the game, you don't really need the Hand of Midas and the Doombringer. It's just greed on greed. You've already got all the gold you need from the Devourer. You want to pick up the mech for your team. Unless, of course, in this case, the Viper's going for the mech. In that case, you want to be going towards a Blink Dagger. So you can Blink Initiate on the Tidehunter or on the Death Prophet and Doom them. If you could Doom either Pandy before he gets his Exorcism or Tidehunter before he gets his Ravage off, you could single-handedly turn the fight in your favor. Valerie, Diablos is actually spotted out the concussive shot. Sexy runs forward, is turned into a pig, but the purification is enough to be able to bring him down. The Arcane Bolt finishing him off. Tiggle Biddies runs himself forward, but there's 4 heroes there, and so he immediately flees the other way. Pandy actually can't run him down right now. He's got the Crypt Swarm available, so a few more right clicks. But that pointing corrosive skin doing a lot of work to keep him alive. Looks like Viper actually does have his mech up, so 11-minute mech, which is fairly standard time if you can decide to completely rush it. You can get it up in 9 minutes, 8 to 9 minutes if you get every CS and maybe a kill. But considering the fact that Viper has been out CS'd by the Death Prophet and he lost the tier 1 tower, not too bad. So with the mech up, they should be able to, they could actually try to hold their towers now. And they group up as 5, since the team with the earlier mech has a huge advantage in the early team fight. Clinkz actually choosing to go for Medallion of Courage. So this is a very, actually used, that would have been a kill attempt. But he's now calling the Ancient Seal and the Dust, so choosing not to use the Medallion of Courage might actually cost him his life. He should just barely be able to make his way out of there. But the early Medallion of Courage and the Clinkz, it's a great item for Clinkz in certain situations. So a situation like this, when you want an item that gives you a lot of immediate impact and the support heroes with low armor. Actually, every hero over on SINGTO has fairly low armor. The only exception is the Omniknight, who's got high base armor and the Deathball. But even then, 5 armor, -7 coming out from the Medallion of Courage. So they've got -2 armor. The Skywrath Mage's got 1. Wraith King's got 4. And the Titanhunter, he's got 6 now because he's got the buff up on him. Diablo's torn apart. As Valley with the Purification will do a lot of work. Spooky Scary Skeleton TP's into that and dies. Ravage being blown, unfortunately only catches Caesar Cheese, but Caesar Cheese is going to be eating the Purification to the face, and eSnug running in one by one like lambs to the slaughter. They feed away, they throw away their lives, and they throw away a free tier 1 to the Deathball line of SINGTO. And so in terms of gold, it has completely equalized, but keep in mind 4,000 gold is going in favor of SINGTO, since that's wasted gold on the Midas until they start to pay themselves off, about 7-8 minutes before the Midas pays itself off. 1,500 gold lead now in their favor. EXP lead still is in favor in eSnug, that's because of the Midases, as well as the fact that they had dual lanes as opposed to the tri lanes. They were able to find a lot more solo EXP, especially since Sexy rotated over to the mid lane, and he's been fairly heavily shut out, as well as the Lich advantage. So the game, there's an advantage in favor of SINGTO, but it's not necessarily as big as it could be, just because the Midases have enabled them to keep up in terms of experience. So if they could hold the line for 10 more minutes and not lose a tier 2, then the game goes heavily into their favor. But SINGTO, they know that the instant their ultimates are up, they have to take a fight. Yule Scepter is now up on the Death Prophet, as well as the Invis rune. Arcane Boots is up. Taichu, he can't go for a kill attempt on Pandy now because he's noticed that she's got the regen rune, or at least he should be checking. And this Clinkz, he's a momentum based hero, and the reason why Orchid's so perfect is if he catches out the Skywrath, Skywrath can't do anything. In this case, Skywrath can turn around the Ancient Seal, so if another hero is there, they can actually turn it around and capitalize it into a kill, especially once he has his ultimate up with the Mystic Flare. Wraith King chose to go for a Maelstrom as his first big item. You usually see Midas or a Blink Dagger or Midas into the Blink Dagger. So the Maelstrom very early on does give you a lot of teamfight presence, and the fact that with the Lightning Blast it does help you farm faster. But Midas is great on the Wraith King because you lack attack speed. Actually, a Courier Snipe happens as a Dire Courier is being picked off by the Clinkz. However, his Shadow Walk is on cooldown. Never mind, he just used it. Yeah, it's on cooldown for 5 more seconds. So he went for the... Valley saying while you do this. So he went for the Soul Ring, which helps alleviate his mana issues. Since Clinkz does chew through a lot of mana, it's a very effective pickup on him. He'll have Dark Pact off cooldown fairly soon, so you have to use that to keep himself relevant. Actually, you can go for a kill attempt on Valley right now, if he really wants to do so. Choose to do so, he pops the Medallion this time, he actually burns him down, so the Medallion of Courage doing work when he chooses to use it, just because it gives you such a... It's a free Deso's worth of negative armor, and for a hero that does massive amounts of physical deep, so he's doing 220 damage per right click, it stacks up very quickly, especially once the armor goes into the negative range. Spooky Scary Skeleton picks up a Drums of Endurance. He really needed a Blink Dagger since you want him to be the Blink and doom the Titanhunter before he gets his Ravage off so he can win the fight, or if you could catch up the Death Prophet before she exorcisms. But since Death Prophet's going to become fairly tanky later on, and since the Ravage is so much more important in the early stages of the game in terms of the damage that it does as well, you probably want to be dooming that Titanhunter, but it gives you a lot more solo killing power as well. Since Doombringer, every time your Doom is off cooldown, you want to be going for a kill, and he actually could be called out right now. Concussive Shot as well, so Red Fire Blast lands. Ancient Seal lands as well as the Mystic Flare. Swords rain down from the heavens and it smites down Spooky Scary Skeleton. Caesar Cheese, he's just picked up his boots. He's got Chain Frost available. Choosing to max out Sacrifice the Courier for the Radiant side, actually flying towards Captain Taichu. There we go. So he picks up a Ring of Aquila. He actually turns around on Sexy. Sexy's taking a lot of damage. He's going to use Ravage to keep himself alive. Guardian Angel also used very late. Unfortunately, Shadow Walk was on cooldown. Is on cooldown. He's not going to have enough mana to use it as well. So Taichu, big misplay coming out from him. He went in when they were grouped up as 5. He did force out 2 ultimates though. And so that means that that SINGTO, if they decide to try to take the tier 2, they have to be very careful. Diablos runs very far forward. It's a Wraith Fire Blast. Misplays coming out from him. Viper Strike is now wasted. Chain Frost being used, but the Creep Wave is there, unfortunately. So it's completely whiffed. Not his best work, indeed. Actually, he's bouncing back and forth to Valley. Valley gets doomed up and dies to the Chain Frost. Goma's going in on a Spooky Scary Skeleton. There's no Mecha. Mecha's finally being deployed. Spooky Scary Skeleton, but Tickle Bit, it wasn't enough for Spooky Scary Skeleton. Tickle Bit, he eats the Red Fire Blast in the face, he turns around as well, he takes another fall, so even though SINGTO were at the weakest that they should have been, they actually were able to take a fight, and Gush cleans up Caesar Cheese, and they're going to be able to take the tier 2, especially with the Exorcism up. And SINGTO, that lineup has got a lot more scary. Unfortunately, Exorcism did wear off. They did waste the Ravage as well as the Guardian Angel, so if they'd backed off, they played it safe and waited till the Clinkz had respawned, they could have turned that around and actually taken that fight, especially since they had Doom and the mech up. Unfortunately, Diablo's caught out of position playing very far forward. They went in 1 by 1 once again. He should be able to pick off Sexy this time. There's nothing I can do to save him. He could use him up. He does so, but he turns around too slowly. Clinkz needs to Crypt Storm for his troubles. When you're playing as Clinkz, especially when you're going for an aggressive pick off like that, you want to wait till your Ghost Walk's off cooldown, or gonna be off cooldown the next second or two before you start off the attacks. Since otherwise, if Pandy turned around faster, that could have potentially been a kill attempt. Or at least would have dealt a fair amount of damage over on Clinkz. You want to make sure that you leave as few things as possible to chance. He actually could go for a kill attempt on Validity right now, but he's immediately being pinged out. Dust has also been used. Concussive Shot flies out. Pandy Yule Scepters him up. And that Purification cuts through half his life as his Dark Pact just wore off. The Wraithfire Blast cleans him up. He's going on for these 1v1 pickoffs, but without the Orchid, he doesn't have the guaranteed lockdown. It's the reason why Sheepstick as well, before Orchid became a popular item in Dota 1, before it was introduced into the game, Clinkz used to just straight up AFK Rice the Sheepstick and then use that to try to find kills. So now you replace that with the Orchid Malevolence, which works a lot better for the Clinkz because it gives you more damage, but the Sheepstick also is a very powerful late game pickup for the Clinkz, since you don't need to build more damage on him. He's got 2 fantastic damage storage to the Searing Arrow, which is broken on any other hero in the game, apart from the Clinkz, as well as the Strafe, which gives 130 attack speed. So it's giving him more attack speed than the Mask of Madness for no drawback at all. So he doesn't have to build, so that means he doesn't have to build damage. You want to build utility with that. Massive Ward's being used defensively. Doom over on Sexy, so he can't Ravage. Golem runs forward. He's eating a lot of damage from the tower and the Mass Serpent Wards, but he's got Purification and the Reincarnate. Guardian Angel being used. Spooky Scary Skeleton takes the fall. Doom wears off. They can't take this fight now, especially since they're fighting 1 by 1. They're walking in once again. Pandy will set himself up. Sigil Beast taking a lot of damage. The Reincarnate is being forced by Gomu. And they lose nothing in exchange for that Tier 2 tower, which they should be able to clean up. They're farming up the Mass Serpent Wards. They did blow the Reincarnate, but it's a level 2 Reincarnate, so it will be off cooldown fairly soon. They're not split pushing, they're not doing any kind of recovery. And the game is becoming a lot more difficult for the boys over in eSnug. There's only a 2,000 gold lead. It should be 3,000 once it calculates the tower gold, but the EXP lead's now been lost, so 1,000 EXP. And the Deathball lineup of SINGTO, they want to get ahead as quickly as possible. Then once they're ahead, they want to stay ahead and keep snowballing that advantage. But because of the Midases, and since they've only lost 1 Tier 2 so far, if they could drag the game out a bit longer, if they could get a pick off and prevent them from grouping up again, the Midases will be able to do a lot of work. Since they're still keeping up in terms of EXP, just because when you group up as 5, you're not getting as much experience. And the Midases do give you a crap ton of experience, it multiplies the experience you get from a creep by 2.5. They're picking out Roshan, which they should be able to take very quickly, especially with the Medallion. That's the added utility. Captain Taichu spots out the Ancients. He knows that they've been cleared out fairly recently, so they should have been there in the next 30 or so seconds. He spots out Sexy. Sexy does have his Ravage online. Turns around, starts throwing out your right click. Sexy blows at Ravage. Unfortunately, only hits on, catches on 2, never mind. And he's able to get the kill on him nonetheless. That's a wasted Ravage. And so they should be able to clean up this Roshan fairly easily. Exorcism will be available. Death Prophet probably going to be going towards the Shiva's Guard. Could be going towards the Sheepstick if he really wants to be able to lock down that Clinkz. But with the DP, you want to stay alive, since you do damage just by staying alive, so long as you've got the Exorcism up. And the Shiva's Guard does a lot of work in this game, since the negative attack speed on Doom is absolutely ridiculous, just because it's negative 40 attack speed, and Doom doesn't have much attack speed to work with. And so it brings him down to ground 0. Frost Diamond's being used over from the Lich to be able to help him tank it up. Viper picks up the Aghanim Scepter. It looks like he's going towards the Aghanim Scepter. He picks up the Aegis. He could also go for a BKB, but Viper, his CS and his kill count is very low, all things considered. He's the best 1v1 here in the game, so you have to be able to capitalize with that advantage. Pandy was able to beat him mid and take his tower off the back of that. He did get an 11-minute mech, so he could help out the rest of his team, but when you're going in 1 by 1 into these team fights, and when your Clinkz getting caught out of position, initiating on 3-4 heroes, it's looking grim. He does have a lot of gold saved up on him now. He's got 3k up on him. And Shadow Shaman was able to pick up a 4-staff off the back of that. And so he chose to go for Tranquil Boots as opposed to Arcane Boots, recognizing that he probably won't be able to find the farm to pick up Arcane Boots in time, so it's an efficiency pickup, and with the 4-staff, his mana pool is a lot higher, so you still can use all of his abilities, and then throw out another Ether Shock on top of that. But you usually want the Arcane Boots, just because you chew through so much mana. The Mass Serpent Wards chew through a massive amount, 600 mana at level 3, so the mana cost increases by a massive amount. Without Arcane Boots, you're going to be using up all your mana pool, just throwing out your wards. And that means that you're not able to provide the Ether Shock, which does a fair amount of damage in these fights, especially early on. Clinkz going in once again, 1v3, 1v4 from the look of it, 1v5, the Concussive Shot with the Gush. Doom flies out on Belly, but it's too late. That's a wasted Doom as well, and he's going to be taking a fall, especially with the Skywrath Mage. Sees the cheese, so it turns around with the Chain Frost. Chain Frost starts to bounce to Sexy, who unfortunately blinks out, so that was completely wasted. So it's 3 ultimates wasted from eSnug. And SINGTO, they know that the instant the Ravage is off cooldown, which will be in 20 seconds, they can group up again and take the Tattoo top. They can't defend this without Doom, without the Chain Frost. Those are the 2 big teamfight spells they're relying upon. The Viper Strike can be expended for 1 target. The Death Pack will almost always be off cooldown. And the Mass Serpent Wards, you can use that to go for a kill or for a tower, but you can't fight without the Doom and without the Chain Frost. Without those 2 spells, it's a free Tattoo tower. And Goma, he's got his Molnir up on him. So he's got no way to be able to close the distance, but once he does close the distance, he does a lot of damage. Since the biggest issue with the Wraith King is he's very slow, so he's got very limited time on target as a melee hero, so that's why you usually see a Blink Dagger being built up on him to nullify that weakness. With Pandy doing a lot of damage, he cops the Ether Shock to the face as well as the tower hits, and that drops him down to half, but they're knocking on the tier 3 and on the Rax. They can't lose the Rax this early on against SINGTO's lineup. If that happens, it could be lights out. Viper Strike flies over in Sexy. Ravage flies, catches out 3. Silence being used as well, catches out 4, never mind. Mystic Flare does a lot of work cleaning up. Kill the Shadow Shaman. Tingle, but he stands his ground. He's got the Aegis Immortal. They lose the melee Rax, so Pandy, they can just back away right now. They don't have to stay for the range Rax. They're choosing to commit. Exorcism as just one off. Speaking Scary Skeleton, no Doom up on him. So he's just walking in and hitting people. There's only so much he can do. Use it. He doesn't even use the Centaur Storm. He takes the fall to the Purification. Reincarnate's being popped. Captain Taichu comes back to life, but he could be taking another fall. Take Old Biddy's the one that's going to be a sacrificial lamb, the Ancient Seal, the Crypt Swarm as well as the Arcane Bolt. And things are looking very grim. Deathball line from SINGTO, they've reached critical mass now. They've taken this, the first Rex, actually start nibbling away at the second tier 3 tower. Pandy, buddy, you don't deal enough damage yet. You gotta back away. No exorcism up for you. Shiva's Guard's now up on him, so it's going to be very difficult for the Clinkz to be able to burst down the Death Prophet, since you don't want to stack HP on the Death Prophet, especially when the enemy team has negative armor. You're going to stack armor, since the majority of the damage is going to be physical. And while eSnug, they had a good lineup to deal with the Deathball push coming out from SINGTO, they weren't able to execute it properly because their team fights are being very sloppy. They're going in 1 by 1. They're choosing to throw in their ultimates when they don't need to, and when those ultimates are down, the enemy team's exploiting that. And so the Clinkz pickup could have been very powerful. It still has been doing a fair amount of work for eSnug in regards to the fact that he's able to create some space for his team by forcing them to blow out their ultimate and by going for these kills. But the fact that he didn't go for the Orchid means that he didn't have that immediate lockdown. If he went for the Orchid, that means that you could Doom the Tidehunter, Orchid the Death Prophet, or Orchid the Skywrath Mage, or the Omniknight and start these fights. If you Orchid the Omniknight and kill him before he gets any of the spells off, that gives you a huge advantage in these team fights, since they're relying on the Purification, the Guardian Angel, and the Repel. The Repel probably could have been used preemptively, but the Guardian Angel is what will really win these fights, especially in conjunction with the Exorcism. And that means that Doombring has 1 less target that he has to worry about as regards to Doom priority. But SINGTO, they're constantly grouped up, they're never on their own. Going for a little bit of chip damage. Taichu's caught out with the Grave Silence, Concussive Shot flies out. He's got Grave Silence, he's got the Shadow Walk available. He runs through the Mystic Flare, and that kills him with the Crypt Swarm being able to clean him up. He could have actually chosen to run to the side there, would have kept enough HP to be able to survive. But that Dark Pack also wore off as he was eating the Mystic Flare damage, and he's forced to buy back. Because otherwise that would be that's game over for the boys over at eSnug. SINGTO, they're grouping up again, they're knocking on your door, they've got all their ultimates up. Since the Ravage will be available very shortly, the Reincarnate won't be up for 30 more seconds, but he actually chose to go for the Assault Cuirass as opposed to the Molnir. That gives him even more pushing power to giving your team the +5 armor, and the enemy team -5 armor, so it's compensating for the negative armor coming up from the Medallion of Courage. And with the Shiva's Guard as well as the Assault Cuirass, 26 armor all over the Death Prophet. Good luck trying to kill her. And so when she's knocking on your door, there's not really all too much you could do. They could send Pandy up in the front line to slow siege the tower, while the rest of his team wait in the wings. Maybe have the Wraith King up front as well, because he's got the Reincarnate. Sexy waits for them to initiate on you, since they're the ones pushing your tower down, and then he blinks in. So we see Sexy, he's backing off now, because he knows that he can counter-initiate. Spooky Scary Skeleton blinks in. Doom's out on Validity. It's a fairly good Doom, but the drawback to this is he once called out the Ravage, and Pandy cleans him up with the Exorcism. Goma runs forward. He knows he can tank damage and die with the Reincarnate. Pandy eats the Viper Strike. He's actually taking a lot of damage from the Mass Serpent Wands. They haven't been focusing on Mass Serpent Wands, but take all Biddy's cut down. Mass Serpent Wands should be to bring it down, pop the Reincarnate. The Reincarnate, he's more than happy to expend that, especially since that means that he should be able to breach your high ground. High ground's not being breached by the Creep Wave. And with the Assault Cuirass up, they were able to waste most of the Exorcism time, but just with the Shaman and right click coming out with the Assault Cuirass, they should be able to go for it as a tower. Diablo has 4-stops himself back, so he doesn't eat the Grip Swarm. But he's still caught up with the Grave Silence. He gets gushed in the face by Sexy. Pandy goes for a kill attempt, concussive shot, Red Fire Blast, and one more right click. Go says when you come at the king, you best not miss. And he sure as hell ain't missing. The melee racks will be taking forward. Another set of racks going in favor of SINGTO, and that looks like lights out for eSnug. It's too difficult for them to recover at this point, unless if SINGTO decides to throw. Tidehunter kills off Caesar Cheese in the background. You'll step to buying space, and GG's been called 27 minutes in. The boys from eSnug, they know it's game over. Mystic Flare we used to clean up Spooky Scary Skeleton. So we're going to be taking a quick break, and we'll be loading into game number 2. I'm hoping we'll be moving into game number 3 for at least one of these series, but you never know. So stay tuned, we'll be right back, just going to quickly restart the stream.